Kind of give me a sense of where you were in life before the book entered. What was going on?
Gosh.
You ordered sparkling water? Cheers.
Cheers.
So what do you think of the library?
Oh my gosh. I've never seen books like that. I mean, this would be a dream library. Been really trying to work on like leaving limiting beliefs behind about myself.
How does suffering play into it?
The fear of suffering is greater than the suffering itself.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that really hit home.
We love talking about books that have changed people's lives, like had such an impact that they are different after reading the book. Our special guest today is Brittany Axelson. Okay, so the big question, how did The Alchemist by Paulo change your life?
Gosh. I was told I have to show you my tattoo.
What is it?
I am.
Oh.
That you like the...
What made you want to do that?
It was like, I wanted it right there and saying that, so like whatever I needed in the moment, which is kind of like the Alchemist book, but
Empowering.
I am enough, I am, yeah. So it's like, oh.
That's great. Did you see all the I Am books?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's great. So what do you think of the library?
I mean, this would be a dream library.
It's a little Narnia.
It's
So
on a book.
you ordered sparkling water?
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Gracias.
Oh, wow, you've got like different editions.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different editions.
Is that coffee?
I'm kind of going for it.
It was like, feels like bourbon.
No, it's just coffee. Coffee tonic is what it is. Which version did you get? Is it very similar to that?
Actually, I had like a special edition art version of it.
Oh.
Yeah, but this is the one that I have like on my vision board.
What else is on your vision board?
Gosh, a lot of travel. There's art. What else is on there? This year I want to get organized. So like I've a book on there. Yeah.
2024 or 2025?
2025.
You
I
wanna get
started
organized?
early. Yeah, I thought starting right, like at the new year, you kind of want to go in with like intentions, and it takes a little more time to figure out your New Year's resolution. So I kind of started in October, how I want to start the year off.
I start right now usually.
Yeah.
And then we print them out and put them on the mirror so we can look at them every day.
Oh, yep. I got one by my bed and in my car.
That's great. Where on there do you want to travel to?
Gosh, I've got a whole list. So I've been to about 30 countries already.
Wow.
So there's like half that I want to go back to, like Amsterdam and London. And then new countries I want to do. I'd love to go to Jordan and Egypt. Actually, to see the pyramids. It's always been a lifelong dream to see the pyramids, which is something funny in the Alchemist. That's his dream, his personal legend. Yeah, honestly, I'd go anywhere. Mexico City's up high on there. But that's, I guess, my personal goal legend would be to travel the world.
Where's your favorite place that you've been so far?
Probably Japan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Japan is so dope. It is so cool, and it's like so different than anywhere you've ever been. It's like an assault on the senses in like a good and bad way. And my dad actually speaks Japanese. He worked for a Japanese company, and he raised us with like Japanese influence. So maybe there was just some synchronicity in there why I liked it so much.
What did Dad do?
He was a VP of the Port of Los Angeles, or one of them. So he worked in like shipping, and he was working on automating the port before he retired.
So did he work in a port in Japan?
No, it was just a Japanese-based company.
Oh.
So he would go to Japan frequently because they always had the head of the company was always Japanese. So, or the president. So, but it was based here in
Did you grow up
San
here?
Pedro, Orange County.
Siblings?
3 brothers. Yeah.
Older or younger?
All younger. I'm the oldest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How was that?
You know what? I loved it. I really wanted a sister, and I didn't get one, and I'm so happy I didn't.
Really?
Boys are a lot easier. And actually, I have 4 girl cousins, and my mom's brother married my dad's sister. So it's like we have the same genes. So it's like brother, sister, brother, sister. So I feel like I got kind of both.
Do you have kids?
No.
Do you want kids?
I think so.
You think so?
Still undecided. I think so. I have
walk
a lot
me
of...
walk me through the process.
I
What tips you either way?
Well, I think it's different for a woman. I mean, you're giving up a lot initially to carry the baby and just that initial period. I've always been very career focused. I've wanted to be independent and travel. And so I'm not, it's like, how would that fit into my life? But I also love children and I would love to be a mom. So I'm kind of like, yeah, undecided. But there's a lot more options now. So I can freeze eggs. I can figure something else out to prolong that period of thinking.
Yeah. What made you independent?
Oh, I'd like to be independent. I think if I have a child, that would be my whole world. So you're just connected and rooted to something, and I still want to have the ability to explore, I guess.
Would you say that that's the thing that makes you feel most alive is exploring?
Yeah, I would. Exploring, experience, it's like connected to living for me, like living a full life.
Is it connected to creativity?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You get a lot of inspiration from exploring. And I think why I even connected with this book so much is because I've lived too much in my head and I just wasn't seeing anymore. I wasn't like looking around and being in my body. And I think I wasn't able to get inspiration or figure out what finds joy or my joy is or what energizes me. And so this book, it was like, look around the world for the omens. You know, what's the world trying to like knock on
Does
your
a good
door?
job of that.
It does. If you really look, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, you just start to see things again.
Yeah. You're the third person to do this book.
Yeah, it's so funny because I got the videos I was looking at past videos and the first one was The Alchemist. I was like, oh, great. But it is great because you can read it over and over again and get something different.
No, there was a while there where I'd read it every year. It's such an easy read. It doesn't.
Oh yeah, so
it's
simple.
a 2 cup of coffee read.
Two cup. I like that.
Maybe.
Me too.
But it is. It's easy, and you do get something different every time. But you always kind of walk away with like the feeling of being in the moment, like you said.
Yeah.
Like looking at the things that you are overlooking, in a way.
Yeah, it's funny because it was written for children. I read, but I feel like children are already connected and they're themselves and they don't need this book. Like
We're all
adults
children.
need, yeah, or we're just never grow out of being children. We
Yeah,
just,
I'm just a big little kid.
or you just have to unlearn. That was another big thing that I took from this book was just the unlearning or unbecoming, because I become all these things that I don't serve me anymore. So it's like, okay, maybe I'm stripping away more than I'm adding.
So how long ago did the book come into your life?
Oh, well, it's so fun. I literally finished it on Saturday. So
Oh, really?
I read it, yeah, probably was reading it every day or night before bed for maybe a month. I took my time with it.
Is that how you like to read?
Before bed?
Yeah, and
Or-
you just take your time?
No, usually I read very quickly. And I've noticed just in general, I'm doing things too quickly where I'm not absorbing it as much. So it's like, okay, I'm slowing everything down in my life.
Yeah, like people talk about speed reading, and I'm always like, that sounds terrible.
No, I
Like,
mean,
I want to take my time. Like, the book works for me. I'm not in a rush.
It's so true. Yeah, but when you're like living like high speed, you're reading, you're doing things that don't require you to be high speed. I will say I'm always like on Audible and then I read a book, like a hardcover. Audible, I do have like on 1.5 speed. So I do have it a little faster.
See, I can't do that. People do that with podcasts too, and I don't get it.
It's like I don't know, the auditory versus like the visual.
I just never feel like I'm in a hurt. I don't know. I feel like even with books, like that when I pick it back up, I have to go read like 5 pages before to remind me where I am. I don't know. I like that process of, going back and then forward and back and forward, and sometimes reading something a couple times, setting it down and going for a walk and coming back and thinking about it,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably the proper way to read a book. Do you make notes in it too?
Oh, yeah. I make a mess. I'm a highlighter. I'll write, with the pen too if it's that kind of book. It depends on the book.
Yeah.
I also will start books on Audible, and then if it's really good, I order the
Oh, yeah, I've done that.
paper, and then like sometimes there's this book recently about how art affects us, and I was in the first chapter. I'm like, oh no, way too many cool things and facts already. and I have to order it and start highlighting. Like I didn't want to get too far ahead.
What book is it? I want to read it.
It's so good. I'm halfway through, but like I said, I started with Audible and then I got the hardcover. I also like hardcovers too. So it's called Your Brain on Art by Susan Maxman, Susan Maxman and Ivy Ross.
And Ivy Ross.
Looks like this.
Understand what we should do with it.
Ooh, that's a pretty book. Okay.
It's so great. Like she goes into so many things you wouldn't expect with visuals, sound, environment.
Oh, wow.
Like stuff that fascinates me, like creating experiences, for people. And art is an experience in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of depth to it. So
that's why you like Marcel Duchamp.
It's a good one. Love Marcel Duchamp.
His art is an experience.
So, kind of give me a sense of where you were in life before the book entered. What was going on?
I would say I was like at the beginning of trying to like personal growth. So been really trying to work on like leaving limiting beliefs behind about myself, of like changing my way of thinking and living at a
What
higher...
sparked that?
Yeah, gosh, I wish it had happened years ago. Therapy, timing, going through a breakup. It was like on the verge of a breakup, an 8-year breakup. And
the breakup took 8 years, or you were in the relationship?
I was in the relationship for 8 years. So it was just like almost a decade. So I also turned 35 recently, and like a lapse was like, most people say 30 is like this big. I was like 35 for me was like, oh, I've got to like really step back and reevaluate.
30 was for me.
30 was, yeah.
I had a really hard time at 30, but 35 is when it hit you?
Yeah, really hit me.
So what happened with the breakup? Like 8 years, and why didn't it work?
I think we ended up, for me, it was more of a companionship rather than like a relationship.
What's the difference?
Or I don't know. I feel like I had put other things before the relationship. So I needed to reevaluate where I wanted to go, who I wanted to be. I guess I wanted to figure out who I am and what I want to be. And I was having a hard time doing that with someone else and having to make sure I think and care for them.
Did you feel like the relationship didn't make you better?
It made me feel safe, and I didn't want to feel safe anymore, if that makes sense.
Why not?
Because I've always been a very cautious...
You're trouble.
I've never been trouble, so I was like, oh, maybe...
Oh, it's time to be trouble now at 35?
35, I know. Late bloomer.
So it was because it was just routine and easy?
Yeah, I think I had grown a lot, and so I wanted to figure out maybe what else I wanted to do. And it's with another person, you have to very much... I guess I wanted to be a little selfish, You can't do that in a relationship. It's especially after 8 years, you have to you're like, okay, are we marrying, having kids? What are we doing? And I didn't know.
Did he know?
I think he's at a period too of growth and figuring things out and career changes, and yes and no.
Who started the conversation about breaking up? You or him?
It was mutual.
Like you're just having dinner one night?
Oh, no.
Like...
Well, I mean, there'd been problems and such or just like things that didn't feel like they were working anymore. So it'd been a gradual thing. And it's actually been a really beautiful breakup because we've like talked more about things that we never were unsaid for a long time now. It was like we're reconnecting better now that we don't have the pressure of being together. So it's interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So you feel closer to him now than you did before?
Yes, I feel more peaceful about it. We also have a dog too, so it's
Do you share the dog, like back and forth?
Yeah, we will. 50-50, yeah. He's definitely our 100-pound pit baby. Always
How's that custody going to work out?
That's a good
Who's
question.
Who's going to pay child support on the dog?
50-50. We're very equal.
Who does the dog like more?
Oh, he's a mama's boy. He loves his
women. So
you
have an unfair advantage.
I do. I don't know if it's a female energy thing or what it is, but he does love his dad, but he is definitely, if I take him home to my parents, he won't walk with my dad, he'll only walk with my mom.
Really?
Yeah, he's a very interesting dog.
That's cute. So what was going on career-wise at the same time? What are the parallels
I just hit my 3 years. And so I felt like I had gotten in a good rhythm of knowing what I knew and wanting to expand and feeling confident. So in what I did, and finally found a job that I find super meaningful, that I adore, who I work for. I love storytelling. I love the industry I'm in. I felt,
What were you doing before that?
well, it was COVID. So I was potted up with a couple people, and I've worked in fashion, furniture production. I've kind of been all over. I hadn't found, and career was always something that was I'd always really wanted, because I found work and purpose gave me meaning, and I hadn't quite found the fit yet. And so it just felt I guess it's like a peaceful time too. Peaceful, but room to grow was when this book kind of found its way to me.
What is the magic that you brought to those other jobs? Like I'm guessing you're the kind of person that can get stuff done when other people's can't?
Actually, yeah, I would say I'm quite resourceful.
So that's kind of the thing that you bring to the table, even if it's not fulfilling for you. You play a role in the company where you get stuff done. Am I accurate
And
there?
like in my previous jobs,
Yeah.
I would say this job is the one that I really found that I was a very capable person. So maybe that idea cemented in this job. And the other jobs, I guess I just learned how to work and work hard, maybe. I guess the other jobs just paid the bills. This one feels like I would do it if I didn't have to.
Oh, wow. Really?
Or I would, it would be the job that I would.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the money wouldn't matter as
Right.
much. Yeah.
That's great. So you're going through the breakup. Had you been in therapy, or was that?
Yeah,
a new
I've been in
thing?
therapy probably since I was 16. So different forms. So it's always been like
How many different therapists have you had since you were 16?
Gosh, a lot. Let's see.
Really? What makes a good therapist?
There are definitely good and bad therapists. And I've been lucky to have mostly good therapists. Gosh, it's hard to define. I think it's the person who, very unjudgmental, but that you end up growing with. There's a lot of therapists that I don't think people change at all that they've seen. If you're not like kind of changing or realizing things about yourself, I would say they're not the fit for you.
So progress is measured by change and growth, in a sense.
I guess the ability to look at your shit too.
So does the therapist need to be honest?
Yeah. And I would say a good therapist doesn't tell you what to do. They kind of guide you. Your
Like guided
parent.
discovery?
Yeah, exactly.
Would that be your parenting style, guided discovery, or would you be like more of a?
Gosh, that's a hard one.
How was your mom?
Very strict and controlling. And then since I'm the firstborn, I'm the guinea pig. So they're working out their parenting style. And then by my little brother, she was much more laid back and let things go. With me, so that's probably why I was much more of a control freak. And, also she was very anxious and I think overwhelmed with 4 kids. So that maybe plays in. I'm like, why do I want kids? Do I want to? So,
Yeah, that makes sense. 4 is a lot.
4 is way too many.
Maybe 2. Maybe 2 is the
Yeah, 1 or
number.
2, 1 and a.
I was an only child. One you always wish you had a sibling.
Oh, you do? Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I love siblings, especially when your parents go, you have each other, and I'm quite close with my brothers, so don't know where I would be without them.
So who recommends the book?
A friend did, and over the years, so many people have recommended this book, and I just had started it, and then I didn't finish it, and so I don't know.
It starts slow.
It starts slow. I think that's, yes.
Because, I had the same
Yeah.
experience. I bought it. I started it. I was like, I don't get it. And then I had a friend come back from a vacation. And he goes, I read The Alchemist. You have to read it. And I was like, really? And it was somebody I really respected.
Yeah.
And then you kind of got to chunk through that first part. It's all set up. But it starts slow.
Been told, or there's a lot of lore around this book of how meaningful it's, life-changing, and then you're like, okay, but then it comes, like, and
once
then
it
every
comes,
word,
you can't put it down. Yeah.
yeah, is a quote that you could live by.
So who's the friend? Like, what did they know you were going through something, or?
No, it was just an acquaintance that was we were talking about favorite books or books that had changed lives, and like it was one of the two that were his favorite books or that he always kept. So I was like, oh, I've been told to read this so many times that I should. Maybe this is the sign that I should read it. And it's like a thin book, and I thought, okay, that is nice one before bed. A couple pages. It's not overwhelming, big book, because I had read Atlas Shrugged recently, and that was it's such a meaty book.
That's a weapon.
Yeah, and I was like, well, okay, I need something, a little different. And yeah, it was.
How long did it take you to read Atlas?
So I did that one on Audible, and it took, it's 40 hours? But I got really into it. So I was reading it in my car when I was brushing my teeth. It took me maybe like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's quick.
Pretty quick. When I'm in a book, I just walking around the house with my phone on.
So you start reading it, and then what's the first oh, this is good, or this is what I needed in The Alchemist?
I think had to do with suffering. It was either suffering or it was the personal legend where the universe is conspiring. When you're on your road to your personal legend, the universe is working with you and for you. And you are also the universe and part of the universe. So it was helped with the idea of letting go of limiting beliefs and trying to manifest and meditate that felt like it was speaking to me.
Because did you feel like you were separate from the world in a way?
Yeah, I think I was living too much in my head. So I wasn't, you're not rooted. If you're not in your body, you're not your feet aren't on the ground and connected. So it was like a grounding. And it was also this idea of having a conversation with the universe and letting go of control and being open to receiving. So yeah, I was even meditating with my hands out because you're receiving one. Yeah, so it was that. And then
how does suffering play into it?
The fear of suffering is greater than the suffering itself.
Oh.
Yeah, and that really hit home.
How does that hit home? What does that mean to you?
Well, I think everyone's scared of suffering. I think it prevents you from doing a lot.
But what is suffering in your firsthand experience? What is the suffering?
Gosh. Firsthand, there's so many little things. I think the limiting beliefs that I've believed or have stopped me from living a full life is a form of suffering.
What are those limiting beliefs?
Fear of failure, that I'm not good
Is that
enough.
because of mom?
Yeah, maybe the idea of consequences. There's a consequence if you fail. But I think.
Is it also about appearances?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
You wanted to be the person that didn't fail or?
Gosh, yeah. I think we live in a culture where we hear success stories and we don't really hear about the failures. And it's
Nobody's
hard.
Posting that on Instagram.
No.
Actually, sometimes people do, but it looks like a hot mess.
So you really only hear.
I don't want to hear that your dog died. I'm sorry your dog died, but you're ruining my day.
Or the sadness but those are the times of personal growth or the learning times and opportunity times. And I just wanted to get past those times. So I think I'm okay, if I can live in those times, sit in those feelings.
So being a perfectionist is a limiting belief. What else?
Actually, that is. I am a horrible perfectionist.
Does that keep you from starting stuff or finishing stuff?
Probably finishing stuff. I'll kind of start stuff and then get scared and back off. But yeah, letting go of perfectionism or figuring that out has been a big challenge or a limiting belief I needed to let go of. And just living the journey and liking the journey. The journey's the destination.
The book is great for that.
Yeah. I was let me get to the destination. And then what else can, and then you don't remember or you haven't lived it. So yeah, failing well is something I'd like to learn and be okay with.
Have you figured that out? Because it's a hard one.
No, definitely not.
I'm going to say,
no.
I don't know that I have that figured out either.
Still, when I mess up, I'm I beat myself up. Once that voice is oh no, okay, what could you do better next time? What did you learn? Okay, let it go.
What other limiting beliefs?
Oh God, there's a list. And then when I'm asked about it, I can't remember exactly what. That I'm not good enough.
Why would you not be good enough?
maybe insecurities, self-worth.
What do you think that comes from?
Growing up, maybe society, things that I took on from the world that maybe necessarily, it was maybe how I understood the world and I conceptualized it and took it on myself. So I think this idea of unbecoming and unlearning those things, you know, will be a big part of if I can grow with that.
Why do you say if?
Or I thought that's actually words are powerful. When I would change the if because I don't want to live with the ifs.
Do you think you have a grasp on that?
I'm starting to think about it. So no, yes and no.
What is the path to yes? Like, what do you think it is that you need to embrace for it to be yes?
Probably compassion and self-acceptance.
Like compassion for yourself?
Yeah. Firstly that, and then just compassion in general. But more for myself, because I definitely am so much more willing to have compassion and love and just for anyone else. So I think just turning that inward is something I definitely have to do.
Yeah, I think that's pretty common, like that you will have more compassion for others than you do yourself. It's a funny trick that we do to
Yeah, it's a
ourselves.
weird. And then it's like the question, well, can you have compassion for someone else if you don't for yourself? And then you can go down that rabbit
Yeah, what's
hole.
the answer to that?
I guess a lot of the yes and no's. Yeah, I think yes, but I think, yeah, gosh, that maybe question mark. That one I would want to figure out. I would think yes, but I don't know. What would you say?
I don't know, like I don't think I struggle with that in the sense that I don't hold myself to that high esteem, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it, loving yourself. Like, I just don't believe in that. I think you should just like yourself. Like, everybody's trying too hard to do this. It's like, I think I'm more balanced when I'm figuring out ways to contribute to others. And I'm not so great. Like, if I had to love myself, I'd have to break up with myself. And it's like this, I don't know. It just seems like that's a self-help thing that keeps everybody on the continuity kind of a thing. But to me, it's like yourself, but I don't know. You got to laugh at yourself.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
we're all pretty flawed and we all get in our head. And I feel like I get past it quicker because
You don't take yourself too seriously.
that would just seem like it would drive me crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I try to
Yeah.
focus more on what I can do and getting better and improving, but I also accept the fact that there's parts of my life that I probably should focus on, but I can only do a couple things at a time.
Yeah.
And so when I do those things, I want to do them really well. To me, it just helps to be honest about that. Like,
Not a jack of all trades, but more of an expert or master.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, just having a little empathy, I think, in that way. I'm not trying, like, yeah, I think the whole love yourself thing is nuts.
But
I just like myself. Like,
I like that. Yeah.
I'm fine.
It's a happy medium.
But really, at the end of the day, it's what can I contribute? It's not just about me.
Yeah, I love that.
And here's the thing too. Like, I don't know what I don't know, so I'm not. This isn't absolute. It's just my observation. Is I've known quite a few people that have gone into working on themselves, and they end up more miserable. And I always thought it was interesting because they would do stuff like they'd be like, "I can't talk about that right now. I'm working on myself," and you're like, "Oh, sorry,
Okay.
I didn't mean to trigger you." Or, you're just like,
Yeah.
"I wanted to talk about the Dallas Cowboys. I didn't know what that sort of thing." And so it always seems like people get a little too over emotion. I don't know.
Or over analytical, maybe.
Yeah, and it's just like that. It feels like the most important thing to people, the biggest driver is belonging. Like, that's
Yeah.
what we all strive for. That's why you're wearing clothes. That's why you have a haircut. Like, you want to belong, right?
Yeah.
So then that's in collaboration with others. So I feel like if you focus on yourself too much, and not what you're contributing to others in a sense. Now you can go too far, and the people that end up feeling like they're always getting taken advantage of because they give too much, usually those people have really low self-esteem, and you end up attracting kind of your same level of self-esteem. And so the fix is to raise your self-esteem and hang out with people that aren't going to take advantage of you. But you don't want to not give. I think people get jaded because they're like, well, I get taken advantage of. And it's like, why don't you consider where you're giving it? Give it to people that reciprocate, but don't stop giving it. And I think that's, I noticed that people get stuck with that.
Yeah.
Any other big takeaways from the book?
Yeah, it's so simple, but like listening to your heart,
Yeah.
you know, like, or the body, it's like the first signal, I think, and we ignore a lot what goes on in here because we listen to too much in here. So I've been definitely trying to get out of my head and more into my body, like, oh, what am I picking up on, and listening to this first.
Is there anything you do to help with that, like yoga or anything?
I would say the meditation I have always had such a hard time meditating. Like, I've never been able to do it. And this is the first time that I've actually been able to like sink in. And what really helped was binaural beats. So I put those in, and I, have a mantra. I definitely look
So
at.
did you do TM?
What's T? Oh, transcendental. No, I've never done it, but I've heard it's amazing.
That's
would
what I
love to.
did.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they give you a mantra. That's what I thought. You were
yeah.
referencing that. So you go and you do, you go for like 3 days in a row and they give you a mantra and then help you. But it worked so well for me.
Do you have that same mantra?
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, they give it to you and then it's your mantra.
Oh, really? Do you give feedback on what it would be a good one for you, or like they just give you one to say?
No, there's actually a chart that they go to.
Oh, okay.
It's on your age and gender and something, I think.
Oh, interesting.
But you're not supposed to look at that, peek at it, whatever. I've actually done it and taught it to people, and their experience wasn't as good as if you pay and go. So I always tell people that are interested in it that I'll help pay for it or whatever instead of teaching it, because I don't know, there's something about the way they do it that's just great.
3 intensive days of. My best friend did the same program.
What did they say?
They thought it was amazing. I don't think they practice it now, but afterwards, it was definitely like their Kickstarter into meditation.
You become very in tune with yourself through it. Like,
yes,
you become more authentic.
Yeah, which I would say was what I want, is my maybe greatest desire right now.
But I will tell you that I use the binaural beats too, and it helps a lot.
Aren't they great?
Yeah. She talks about that in that book too.
Oh, really? The art book?
Yeah.
Oh.
So how long do you meditate?
I'm about 5 minutes right now. So.
And do you think about something before or after? Do you try to go in with a certain context?
I definitely like have a space that I like to do it, and like I sit in the same way.
And it's the open?
Open, yeah. Or I'll have my coffee sometimes and I'll hold like the hot cup of coffee is so nice. And I'll definitely read something before, like either something about letting go or just something I kind of want to.
Like an affirmation?
An affirmation I want to focus on for the day, or like an intention. Because along with like trying to live in my body, I want to be intentional about my thoughts, my life. So I like having a direction that I have and I use for the day.
Is there any connection there to like your vision board or anything?
Yeah, there's definitely
Do you do it before or after?
Oh, to look at the vision board?
Or think about it, one of the two.
I usually do it after. I keep it kind of by my work, and I'll look at it before I start my work day or before bed. I was listening to a podcast and they were saying if you look at something before bed, it's like a really good way to prime your mind to something about programming it.
What I do is when I lay in bed, I just daydream about it. Right before you fall asleep, time where you're in between consciousness and sleep.
Yeah.
Feels very powerful for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, it kind of feels like it would be like what a drug trip would feel like, kind of in and out of.
But I feel a little bit like I'm talking to my subconscious a little bit too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like your conscious mind is relaxed and you can talk to the other part.
Yeah.
That's one thing with TM too, is you start to notice your unconscious mind a little bit.
Ooh, okay.
I think that's the in touch with yourself, or where you feel more authentic in a way.
Well, we live mostly out of our unconscious mind. We just don't know it.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Yeah.
It can mess us up or
But-
help us.
Yeah.
one of the two.
I think if we pay attention, so I was like, yeah, I'd love to figure out what my unconscious mind has been telling me or trying to tell me.
Any other highlights?
I love the quote it's the heart, the treasure in the heart. Where your treasure is, your heart. Oh gosh, what is it? It's right in the cover
You're so
of the
good
book.
at remembering these. I'm
Usually,
impressed.
I'm messing it up.
No, you're good. You're doing better than I would do. I have to read it. So can I tell you my favorite part?
Yes, please do.
So when the kid is talking to the alchemist, and he says, "There's only one way to learn," the alchemist answered. "It's through action. Everything you need to know, you have learned through your journey. You need to learn only one thing more." And the boy wanted to know what that was, but the alchemist was searching their heart eyes and looking for the falcon. "Why are you called the alchemist?" "Because that's what I am." And then a little bit later, he basically says the same thing. "I'm an alchemist simply because I'm an alchemist."
The I am again.
And it's like, nobody awarded him a degree or chose him or whatever. It's who he is, in a sense. And I just think that's so powerful to, not wait for permission. A lot of people are waiting for permission. And he's saying, I didn't need anybody's permission to do this. This is who I am. Which I kind of like. It's kind of like punk rock. And,
Own it.
Like,
Yeah.
It's me. Like,
Gosh. Yeah, no, I like that, especially action. And it seems like that's the perfect part of the book from just talking to you. Makes sense.
There's so many great parts. Who would you recommend the book to? Like, who do you think the book is right for?
Gosh, I do think it's a book. You have maybe a couple copies. And so when you are with someone and they are mentioning stuff in their life, you're like, oh yeah, this is the time you should read it. Anyone specific right now? I don't think I have anyone specifically I'd want to give it to, but I already know I want to give it away.
What would trigger you thinking that it was the right book for them?
That they're searching for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe they're at a crossroads in their life, and they need to start talking to the universe, or they need to start listening. That's what it would be.
You know what's funny for me? When I read the book, I thought I was in a crossroad, and it ended up I wasn't in a crossroad at all. I just needed to enjoy the journey. I was putting too much pressure on it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Complete sense, which I think would also resonate with me. Why the book felt so nice too. Just enjoying things. We're just always trying to move forward. I think too much now, especially with the world we live in and AI and everything's just so rapidly outpacing. I think what we can conceptualize, that kind of just enjoying the moment is
While we
the only
still
thing
can,
we can have sanity over.
before the Terminator comes to
Yep.
get us.
It's funny you have Arnold kind of.
What are you reading right now?
It's called Unbound, or it's more of a full title than Unbound, but it's by this woman called Kasia Urbanak. I think I'm saying her last name right. And I found it through a podcast. I loved the biohacking movement and Dave Asprey. So if I'm listening to a podcast, it's probably his. And he had her on, and she talks about, she was actually earned her money by being a dominatrix, but she was studying to be a Taoist nun in the meantime, for 17 years. And what she took from, she realized both worlds actually are kind of fit together, and was able to learn things from both, and created this academy for women to, I don't know if it's take back their power, but have power and influence, and put different meanings on the word domination and submission, to reinterpret what that meant. But to, when you have power, to have influence with your power. So I think it's a lot about women finding their voice again. And I'm only on page 28, but it's the highlighting book about I never thought of it that way. And I just love how opposite those things are, but they kind of a perfect marriage.
How does that play into domination and submission?
I think that domination is when you're the one, you're directing your energy outward, and submission is the being receiving. how we would think of it. And I liked taking those words because I think we have a lot of bad comedy. When we think of domination, it's like in a negative way, but it can be just holding and owning the space and directing your energy outward. So it's more of the flow and the reciprocation. And it's about being curious and present and attentive with the person when you're speaking from a point of domination. So I really liked that. It was just, you're trying to understand the person and not when they're in the submissive role. It's just interesting. I have to go reread because it's like every word is dense. You're like, oh, because you have to think about that. You're not used to thinking of domination is usually like, she brings an example of someone yelling at you because you messed up about something, and they're the dominator in the circumstance, but they don't have influence. They don't have power in that. Because say they're upset about something that happened to them earlier. That's not...
They've lost control.
So it's just an interesting way of maybe...
they're acting out. They're not controlling.
Yeah, it's not influence. And I think when you have power, you want to have influence.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Sounds really smart. Okay, so the big question, how did The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho... I always feel
that's
like
how you say it, yeah.
How did The Alchemist by Paulo change your life?
It changed my life because I'm looking at the world again. I'm looking at the universe. I'm connecting to it. I'm looking at the moon when I take a walk. I'm starting to just be a part of things again rather than living in my head. I'm like, and just enjoying my, like in the morning, I'm like senses are back and things like that. So I think it changed my life in that way. And it helped me, talk to the universe, talk to my world around me, connect. I also wanted to connect with relationships, like friends that I haven't in a while. So I guess I feel rooted and connected again into what, listening. I think I was always trying to do, and now I'm trying to listen. So maybe that's what
That's powerful.
Yeah.